Good morning, afternoon, and or evening to wherever you are. My name is Kirsten, otherwise known as Jam Raderson. You can find me on Instagram as Jam Raderson Daily, Twitter as Jam Raderson, and TikTok as Jam Raderson. But as you are here on YouTube, that means that you are here for one thing and one thing only, and that is Quickview with the Vampire, my very new series in which I do a very short and sweet review of the newest Interview with the Vampire episode. Today we're going to be talking about Season 2, Episode 2, Do You Know What It Means to Be Loved by Death? Here are my rules for Quickview. The first thing is that I have 4 categories. The categories are favorite scenes, big talk, in which I talk about recurring topics and themes that happen throughout the season. Kind of a category of choice, today's is premiere callback, and then I've got predictions for the future. Within each category, I have subcategories, and I'm only allowed to spend 1 minute talking about each thing, so this is a very short and sweet and to the point video. However, there are going to be spoilers about these books. So if you've gone into season 2 blissfully unaware of what happens in these novels and you want to remain blissfully unaware, turn around and save yourself. But if you know what's in these, or if you don't mind a little bit of the danger of finding out in the first place, stick around, watch, and we're going to talk about season 2, episode 2. First category is favorite scenes, and in chronological order that puts us with the Loumand first meeting scene. We have 2 scenes happening simultaneously. We have Loumand meeting for the first time in Paris versus them currently in Dubai. Talking about Dubai real quick, I feel like this is the first time that they are being genuine, that they are not putting on this theatrical performance for Daniel and whatever they're trying to sell to him. It seems very soft, it seems very reminiscing, and it kind of shows that there is always a love there and that the love is real. I'm not sure where we're going with it yet. However, let's go back to Paris. First of all, the piano that's overplaying all of this, Pride and Prejudice, who? Second of all, the park, sluts. Moving on. The flickering light, I'm sure Armand thought that that was really normal, and I love that he thinks that it was really normal. Followed immediately by, I thought he was alarmingly handsome in the muted lamplight. Okay, sweet talker. And then Louis very fun. I thought he was gonna kill me. Honey, we need to talk about your choice in men. We'll move on to that later, different time. Then Louis big old doe eyes when Armand walks up to him, like, darling, you look like prey. I need you to figure it out. However, the biggest thing is obviously the first line that Armand says to him is, I will not harm you. And then Dubai Armand grabs his hand and says, and I never have. And that just sounds like what someone who has and or will harm you would say. The second scene I want to talk about is the Théâtre des Vampires performance. We have, in fact, first of all, Louis and Claudia getting the best seats in the house, which is a direct contrast to their life in America, setting up kind of this positive outlook on Paris. We have Santiago Ben Daniels, I could write poetry for you. I won't because it would be bad, but I could. I love you. We have the devoted fans in the front seats. It's a call out. It's about us. Thank you for including us. We have Armand being so awkward during the scene. He's like staring at Louis, and you can feel radiating from the screen this like, please stay, please like this. I know Assad had said Armand's not well versed in the language of romance, and that is in fact very obvious. Claudia's joy, the way that she is so enraptured with the performance, the way she watches Santiago and the way she holds on to every syllable that exits his mouth, and the way that Delaney manages to show that on her face, and it's just gorgeous and so sad when you think about the future. He's palpable disgust, and then the way that he still stays seems like foreshadowing for Paris, for Dubai, for San Francisco. I don't really know. And the last thing is that everything happening with Annika sort of feels like this callback to season 1, episode 1, and the Louis and Lestat turning scene where Louis is asking for death, and then Lestat's like, I give death to those deserving, and then they kind of get married in the church, and then the whole like conscious death sealed with a kiss. I don't know. Seems the same. All right, the third scene to talk about is in fact Lestat's letter to Louis. Sam Reed had 2 minutes on the screen and he said, I'm going to dominate this screen with my presence, and then he did so. Louis' hope that Lestat has drawn money out, being so quietly unsaid but so obvious, absolutely painful. Roger knowing who Louis is, the way that he says, I know what you meant to our cherished client, and the way that Louis focuses in on meant. Roger also mentioning the vampire sleep. Does Louis even know what the vampire sleep is? Has Lestat said that? We know he doesn't tell him things, so probably not. I'm sure he's just confused right now, but whatever. Okay, the letter. I honestly just like have it written down because what do you mean I'm supposed to move on with? The fact that we both now exist in 2 different worlds is like the horrible thing that you're talking about. You are the only being I trust and whom I love beyond myself. All my love belongs to you. You are its keeper. A veil will forever separate our union, but it is a thin veil, and I'm always on the other side. I did cry. I've cried during the first 2 episodes of this season, and it's just not like, you know, it doesn't look good for me for the future. All right, the last favorite scene to talk about is in fact the entire bike hunt / murder mansion scene. First of all, the score. It is sexy, it is new, it is exciting in all the ways that Paris is sexy and new and exciting. We have the dynamics that are kind of established during this group hunt. We have the Louis versus Santiago beef beginning. Waiting for my buffoon line. I know they're going to include it. You can't not include it. We also have Santiago as kind of Armand's guard dog, which is a really insane thing to witness on the screen. Then, of course, obviously, we have the Loumand flirting going on. We have the whole, like, tricky, and then us, and then my dear American friend who has dominated my mind ever since I laid eyes on him. Armand, I was not aware of your game, my friend. Also, I really get, like, kind of secondhand embarrassment watching people flirt, because I'm like, you like him. Which is what I was doing this whole scene, until, of course, they start bringing up Claudia's age, and then like the mention of Lestat. That's some very obvious foreshadowing and the like sort of threats that follow that. But then, you know, then you have the whole like, it's Armand for you. So I'll take it, you know, like whatever. All right, we're done with favorite scenes. Now we're moving on to big talk, where I talk about reoccurring topics and themes that are going to be seen throughout the season. First thing I want to talk about is Loumand. So Loumand are continuing this act that they've been putting on in Dubai. However, this episode makes it clear that this act that they're putting on is rooted in some kind of truth. I think the problem is that the truth hasn't been their reality for a very long time. So it brings into question, where exactly do Louis and Armand start to kind of fall apart? Because they are falling apart, or maybe already apart. I don't really know what the exact dynamic is that we're looking at here. Anybody that's read Interview knows what happens, knows why Louis becomes very closed off and very distant and cold. But we've seen Louis in San Francisco in that brief flashback, and he doesn't really seem that way. So what happens between them that leads to the Louis that we see now, to this reality that they're living in? And is it going to be in San Francisco? The second big thing I want to talk about is in fact LOUSTAT. I feel like this season, and I know I've said it already, is using the minimal screen time that they're having together to really establish them as the ship of all time. They're using that kind of electrifying and overwhelming experience that is them on the screen to make you miss them on the screen, and to also show that I think no matter what they've got going on with anybody else, no matter how good it is, it's never going to be this, you know? And I love that. Referring back to the letter, I've seen some takes online where some people think that Lestat wrote the letter during Mardi Gras when he knew that Louis and Claudia were going to kill him. And I'm a romantic at heart, and I'm going to choose to believe that he wrote it on like a random mundane Tuesday when Louis was reading a book and got really angry about something in the book and started rambling incessantly about said thing in the book. And all Lestat could do was just like lean back and listen to him and just be like, God, I love you. We're spending eternity together. Isn't that crazy? And then started to freak out because his experience with his fledglings in the past has not been great. And so he needs to make sure that Louis is taken care of. All right, my third category is the premiere callback that I want to talk about today. So Santiago's speech to Annika Ruman before he kills her on the stage was done at the Interview with the Vampire Season 2 premiere. The McKittrick performers were putting on a skit where we were brought up the stairs and there was this girl screaming in this hallway, and it was genuinely terrifying, and they like brought us back and they had her and they were asking her like, okay, well, we're gonna kill you, or, you know, your mother could take your place, or your sister could take your place. And then they would point to one of us in the audience and be like, what about her? What about him? And she'd like nod and like, yeah, take them. And then the performers would kind of come up to us and be like, all your friends, they'll sell you in an instant. And then they would kill her, and it was like really terrifying, and then we'd just go back down and party. But my besties, Immortal AMC, confirmed that that was a thing that happened, and that was really fun, and I loved having a little callback. I miss you, Interview with the Vampire premiere. I think about you every single day. All right, my last category is my predictions, and I have 5. this time. I'm really sorry. I have a lot to talk about. My first prediction is that Louis is not just seeing Lestat, he's also going to try to be Lestat. And I don't mean that in an exact sense. He's not going to be going around doing all the exact things that Lestat would do and say and whatever. But I think a lot of who Lestat is as a person is something that Louis is trying to incorporate into his life in Paris. I think this search for independence, I think kind of this refusal to be a team player. I think we see it some in episode 1 of this season, the way he kind of mocks Claudia's like search for knowledge and even her books. He's like, at one point in episode 1, he's like, your books are bullshit. Like, you know, put them away. And that's something that Lestat did to both of them at times. The way that he's a newcomer in the city that's going to inevitably be some kind of demise for him. Louis is trying to be things he's not. He's trying to be everything he's not. And I think all the time about that line in season 1, episode 1, the emasculation and admiration in equal measure. I wanted to murder the man and I wanted to be the man. And I think we're seeing that come back into play. My next prediction is that the first meeting with the coven is kind of an exact foreshadow to the end of the end. You have Santiago kind of being this aggressor. You've got the rest of the coven kind of slowly moving in. And you've got Armand standing off to the side watching it all happen. Now, this is a mostly friendly meeting at the time. However, Santiago is definitely onto something. His whole who was your maker thing. He knows something. He's about to be really annoying about it. But I think that this is a complete foreshadow to the way that their story ends in Paris. And it makes me sad. All right, my third prediction is in fact about Armand's characterization. Armand is a void. And what I mean by that is that I think he will become whatever he thinks will keep somebody by his side. And Armand's going to sense whatever Lestat was and who he was, and Armand's going to try to be everything Lestat wasn't to try to keep Louis. Meanwhile, Louis is trying to be everything he's not. And I just think that that's like the whole mess, you know? Like, I think that that's kind of everything. But also, like, Armand's just so desperate to keep people, and he just has zero idea how to control relationships, even though he controls everything else in his life. Anyway, the void, that is Armand. All right, my fourth prediction is referring back to Lestat's letter. Let's think about it for a second. If Lestat did write the letter during Mardi Gras when he knew that Louis and Claudia were planning on killing him, was his intention for Louis to get eaten alive by his guilt? Even though the letter says otherwise. It says, Louis, keep living your life. Do not go after the people that did this. And is he purposely contradicting himself? Maybe. Or did he write it on a mundane Tuesday? And if so, then who is he worried about killing him? Is it the coven in Paris? Is it Armand? Is it those who must be kept? Is it something else? Who could it be? What could it be? Where are we? Is our story heading into Queen of the Damned territory already? Probably. It wouldn't be surprising to kind of head us there, especially with what I'm going to say next, which is that this great conversion, my fifth prediction, we hear it in the trailer for the next episode. Justin Kirk's character, who I have theories on who that could be too, cough, cough, Raglan James, mentions a great conversion, and we've heard it in other things, and we hear it in season 1 when we talk about this great conversion. All I can think of is Prince Lestat. And Prince Lestat is the 11th book in the Vampire Chronicles. And basically, like, long story short, is that there's like this voice and all the vampires are hearing it and they're all blah, blah, blah. And like, is this like what's happening? Is it kind of this? And if so, it would make sense to follow up the Queen of the Damned storyline immediately with the Prince Lestat storyline. You have whatever happens to Akasha happening. I don't know if I want to spoil that. Whatever, but like they need someone to take over and to like rule, and we know that Lestat does that. He becomes Prince of the Vampires. So are we heading into like our Prince Lestat consort Louis territory already? I don't know. Maybe. I would love that, honestly, a little bit. And that's all for episode 2 of Quickview with a Vampire, a very short and sweet review of season 2, episode 2. Do you know what it means to be loved by death? If you stuck around this long, thank you for tuning in. Let me know what you thought about the episode. If you have any upcoming predictions, if you think any of my predictions are crazy, and also what was the most important scene to you. Also, let me know what you think about our upcoming episode, season 2, episode 3, titled No Pain. This episode is going to have our first look at Nikki. I will talk about Nikki one day you guys won't like me when I talk about Nikki. I'm just gonna apologize now and in advance. We're gonna have some Lestat and Armand interaction. Don't know how I feel about that. We're gonna have some Louis and Lestat stuff going on that I'm gonna really tunnel vision in on. We're gonna have Louis and Armand. We're also in the 1700s. Crazy time. I think there's gonna be some weird French stuff going on. I think it's gonna be a really big turning episode for Louis, and I mean that in a derogatory sense. I will catch you next week for a quick view with the vampire, season 2, episode 3, a review of No Pain.